Day 2 of our pre-race interviews with some of the athletes. Again, we're going to have a little extra time to chat with some of our pre-race favorites going into the VinFast Ironman World Championship here in Nice. First up is Kat Matthews. She's always got a great attitude and clearly one of the favorites coming into this race. Talon, sung by Wasp B. What's going on?
Yeah, was it 3 weeks ago? Maybe 3 weeks ago now, and it'll be like a month before the race. But yeah, what I thought was just a minor, happens to people sometimes. You just get stung by a wasp or something, and I just looked down. It was in my cockpit area, like stuck in, like properly sort of I don't know, like wedged in.
Did you see it before it got you or after?
No, I think it had got me a few times before I was like aware of it. Maybe I honestly don't know. I thought, oh cool, just a wasp, get it out. Didn't think of it again at all. But the next day, I slept really badly, and then it was getting worse and worse and worse. So I think I perhaps didn't give it enough attention on race day, because obviously there's other stuff going on.
Yeah.
And yeah, by the time I got home the next day, I was actually a bit worried about it, but I think my body was healthy enough to fight it off, and I sort of said no to antibiotics, and I'm a sort of British, don't want to take anything unless I have to. And I'm aware, antibiotics, gut health, coming into a race, like all those sort of things. So yeah, I was worried for a few hours, but
I didn't know that was a British thing, not taking stuff.
Oh, I'm going to be so stereotypical here, but the Americans throw medication at everything. The Brits actually have some control.
You can see my bag, just full of prescription bottles.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so you're in Nice. You're staying nearby. What's the vibe? You out here with Mark? Anybody else?
Yeah, out here with Mark. Obviously, I feel like we're sort of embedded in the friends of the community of triathlon now. So even though it's just Mark and I staying together, there's lots of other people around to hang out with, which is nice. Training and just generally coffee shops. But no, we decided to stay really close to the sort of city centre race location just to enjoy the race environment. That's something we love doing, is sort of approaching these opportunities like a life experience. And yeah, I think it's worked out well so far. We've experienced Nice well.
That's awesome. Just to go off of your, Brits aren't typically known for like taking medication. I feel like every time I come to one of these things, somebody's like, oh yeah, I was out having drinks with Mark last night. Right? So stereotypical British pub thing. But is it sweet having, like, it seems like you guys are a rad team as far as like he maybe takes care of a lot of the social stuff on race week while you're getting stuff ready for actually racing?
Yeah, I mean, if he's trying to claim that him going out for beers is part of his job roles, I'm not sure. I think we need to discuss those and maybe review them after the race.
It's called networking.
Networking, yes. Yeah, no, he's such a great, he creates a great atmosphere to be around during race week. And I think it really helps me. And like I said, like just being in the city, having a real life rather than it just being about triathlon and performance. And I think that balance is something that we have in normal life anyway. So when we come into a race situation, like, we need to have that balance. He needs to go and, spread his wings and have a few beers. And I need that time just to be super chill, watch Emily in Paris or some other trashy thing on TV.
That's amazing. Go spread your wings, Mark.
Spread your wings. Call him a social butterfly. So that's the wings.
He is a social butterfly. Tell him I want to have some beers with him. So
okay.
That's okay.
You have to, you'll have to sort of book into his diary though.
I bet.
Yeah.
In demand. How cool is Nice though for that? Like, to make it feel like it's not like, it's a little bit different vibe in Kona. It's like, we're here for World Championships, right?
Yeah.
What's that difference like?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think the difference is, unless you've experienced what the Kona vibe is like, this is just normal. This is normal racing in my eyes. Like, there's a few triathlons sort of signs around, a few triathletes around, but it's sort of normal people having a nice time, and they're all on holiday, which is just a great vibe to be around. Hawaii, obviously, Kona, the town is just infiltrated with the sport, which has pros and cons. So I think, yeah, differences, pros and cons.
Yeah, and how hard is that though? That difference. It seems like if this feels normal to you, then it's maybe less stress, less nerves. Doesn't feel like a world championship as much. Where like Kona's very. Does that feel very different to you, or are you still able to find that space?
Yeah, I guess I don't really know. Having not yet finished Kona race, I don't know. I've experienced it a couple of times, and last year when I was racing it, we stayed out of town. A few years before, when I wasn't racing it, it was great to be in the town. So I don't know. I think it's maybe more where your mindset is and your attitude in that week, and it can vary from race to race and from year to year. So it may be a bit of the location, but I think it's more general mindset.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's talk a bit about that. Like, man, your world championship journey has been rocky,
Hectic.
a little hectic. Starting at, and you can tell me if the hectic started before this, but just what, like a month before Kona?
Yeah.
At the Woodlands?
Yeah.
What went down?
I think it was like 12 days or something.
Was it that close?
Yeah. I could be wrong. I honestly can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2 years ago, so I qualified in 2020. And then obviously with
Great.
COVID and St. George, so race St. George. So let's just make sure that my world championship journey starts there.
Yeah.
With the second place.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first time coming to Kona in 2022, later in that year, 10 days before, wasn't to be. Qualified again the year later, turned up last year, and it didn't go so well. So there is a little part of me actually that's coming to terms with the fact that I can't be negative about my 2022, let's call it like accident, Kona year.
Yeah.
Because I then messed it up myself the year later. So I feel like it was sort of cool. Those are all wiped clean. Let's sort of move on to, now you're back in control and fit and healthy and ready to race.
Right. And let's just, for those watching, accident doesn't overshadow like that actual accident was not an accident. That was like gnarly.
Yeah, well, I've come to terms with the word accident. It's amazing how you process these things. Like, it was technically an accident. That driver did not plan to do that. It was not premeditated. So it was an accident on his behalf.
Yeah.
It definitely helped me. It wasn't an accident that I didn't have an accident. So yeah, but I think it's so nice now being 2 years down the line and having the perspective of like, that was real bad. And yet now I'm back, and I can say the word back because I'm like back to a position where I'm better than I was then.
Right.
And I like, how is that possible? That blows my mind. And it's really nice. Like I'm so much more able to talk about it and process those things.
Yeah. And you can tell by like how much you're like, I don't feel like you diminish it per se, but
Yeah.
you don't like, you're not trying to like grandize it in any way. Right. But like, I think I ran into you the week of Kona and you were in like a freaking, not a halo, but you were in like a thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a bad deal.
It was pretty bad.
Like most or a lot of people wouldn't come back from it like at all, let alone like to the level that you have, right? And do you lean into that as far as like what you're capable of in the sport or in life in general, being like, oh, I like do you ever forget that happened?
No.
No.
I think I don't think it's possible to sort of forget, but it's now again, it's like nice that it's not part of my day to day, and it has been for so long that's quite remarkable. The fact it's not I'm not thinking about it every day. Things have changed in my body, things move differently, and I have different routines that I feel like I need to do, but it's not it doesn't define me now, which is quite nice. And that's actually something I was so adamant that psychologically I didn't want that situation to define me. I worked before in my early years in the British Army as a physiotherapist in like complex trauma, and I had already seen how massive massive trauma could affect somebody's identity. And it was just, I remember thinking after weeks after that, just like, this is so important to me that this does not become who I am, and it's going to be part of my life and the process of recovering from it, but it's not who I am. So yeah, I'm not diminishing the accident, I'm not bigging it up, I'm not, but yeah, it's not I don't forget it either, so it's there.
But kudos to you, because I think like, a lot of athletes would choose to be like, because it's all marketing or PR, right? It's like, I'm the one who came back from the injury. But like, I honestly, when I'm commentating, I often forget that happened, right? So that's like a testament to the fact that like, you're doing a pretty good job of it.
But I'm really proud of that. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm
I
saying.
don't feel like I have to sell like my story, and I think everybody's got stuff going on, and I won't make comments or banter at other athletes, but I think who cares? It's about performance on the day in the triathlon. It's not about whether you're doing X, Y, Z, or something happened to you, or you've cut. Like, for me, it's just performance on the day, and alongside that, being a good human.
Yeah.
So I think those, I don't feel the need to over dramatize it.
It's refreshing. That's what I'll say. So I appreciate that.
British, not American.
This is true. Okay, now let's talk shit about the athletes that do that. Give me some
No.
examples.
I respect my peers.
I'll do that with Mark.
Sure.
Beers later.
Off camera.
No, I love it. But into that, like, it was a journey, and like in that period, like, I'll admit, like, I was emotional seeing some of your results, because as you said, everybody has their thing. Like, I've gone through that stuff, and to see like where you were on Elite Drive that 12 days or 2 weeks after, and then like you were a monster in Oceanside.
Oh my God.
Right?
That Oceanside that year was, it's still, that's the most special race to me still out of ever. I didn't even do that well. It was like six months, I think, nearly to the day or something. And yeah, those are the moments where I look back and I'm like, that is a bit mental. Like, if you start listing the injuries and then that race, like it's a bit mad. Like that's the only real race that gives me a bit of a goosebump of sort of return, because I genuinely wasn't sure. In moments, obviously overall I never considered that it wouldn't be possible, but equally I wasn't sure. So those are contradicting statements, but yeah, that was a special race.
No, like that one, I was like, pull your shit together, Matt. Don't like cry. I was like, yeah, it was amazing.
I think I was crying.
Yeah. And then like, did you carry that? Like, I mean, that shift in that year was remarkable, right? Like the Texas, how long after that?
Yeah, like a couple of weeks, I think. Yeah. I mean, the slight, I guess this is where results on the outside are different to how you perceive them as an athlete.
Sure,
and actually, I feel like it's only a year ago, but Texas, I won it, but it wasn't a great feeling for me. It wasn't a great sort of race. I had a really bad mental attitude during the bike, and so that race doesn't hold as much sort of gratification for me. But later in the year, like Lati, World Champs performance, those sort of races, I'm really proud of them. But all of that year, I still see as a sort of, that was just my recovery year. And if you look at like race performances for me, that year is a sort of plateau. And I don't really like that. In my world of ambition, it was like a good year, but it was just as good as the year before. So
like, forget about the whole near-death experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So now I feel like this year I'm actually in training, like performing better than ever again, it's just been so exciting since, I don't know, June probably. So yeah, 18 months of plateau with the injury, and now I'm like back to actually loving exploring new heights, I guess.
Yeah, it's impressive to me, and I'm curious, like, is it past like experience as a physio and seeing some like real stuff, or like I always say, like my only gift as an athlete was like being stubborn, right? And like, is there stubbornness involved with you being like whatever, I just won an Ironman 6 months after nearly dying, but like it's not as good as I could do. Like, is that like something you pull from too? You're just like always expecting a little bit more?
I don't know. I definitely think people who know me would say that I was stubborn, which is probably the classic answer of definition of being stubborn. But yeah, I do think I've got a good balance of being a bit sort of, perfectionism element and wanting to be better each time. But at the same time, more recently, I found that I can just sort of drop it slightly and just take a step back and be a bit more bigger picture. So yeah, I think in terms of the rehab and stuff, like physio really helps. And again, just like general education of the body, I think just, yeah, good. Yeah, don't know, bit of a mix.
Was there a specific race or result where you're finally like, okay, plateau's over? Like, was it Bahrain? Was it like, what were able to like shift through that? What do you consider a plateau?
Yeah. Having, like I said, Texas, the sort of 6-7 months after the accident, so early 23, mentally, I didn't have a nice day. But the year later, so earlier this year, going back there, winning again, I had a really good, positive day, even though it was a worse performance. And coming out of that race, I then had, for the Pro Series, I had to, I sort of switched fire to try and do Hamburg, to try and like consolidate the Ironmans as far away from Nice as possible. And going into Hamburg, I was like, great, had a great swim. The first bit of my bike, it was sort of PB. I was like, except for a few little issues, but power, like everything was going real well. So I think that was going to be the day. That honestly, that was like in my mind, that was the day I was gonna break at the time, the world Ironman time, like on that course. I think that's the course for it, one of the courses for it. So that would have been the day if I hadn't made a mistake. And then so 6 days later, I did race the T100 in San Francisco as a sort of sidestep. And that sort of energy and race fitness performance, that was all already there for Hamburg. And I was able to just like smash it out in San Francisco. So yeah, early June, that was me like, okay, I've moved forwards. Like now I can stop thinking that's good enough. I saw Taylor Knibb destroy me on the bike and I thought, right, I need to raise my game again. Stop thinking about trying to hit what I used to be able to hit. It's now about being better than that.
Right. And do you ever feel like there's like and I think maybe I know the answer to this, but like there's like a karmic thing where you're like, as soon as you let yourself have like an expectation, like this is where I was going to do that, and then it doesn't happen, you're like, okay, maybe I'm thinking too far ahead and need to be like in the moment more? Or do you think it's just kind of as we roll through things, life happens to us?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I don't really know what you mean. Sorry.
I don't either. Sometimes they fall flat.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, that's sweet. And so with the Pro Series, like you had to adapt because of that. Was your original plan like 5 races, gonna make those happen, and I'll just get full points at all those races and be good to go?
Yeah, I mean that would be like gold standard, right? No, it was 5 races, and I still only plan to complete 5 now. There was a discussion of whether I did another 70.3 as a sort of backup, but yeah, two Ironmans and a 70.3, and then the 2 World Championships. It was sort of the perfect, the perfect season, plan A. And I honestly don't really feel like the Hamburg DQ has affected anything. If anything, it gave me more time to recover from my calf injury that I had at the start of the year. So I wasn't running as close back-to-back marathons. And I had a great time in Victoria. Victoria-Gasteiz was a great Ironman race. So yeah, I don't see it as a negative, actually. It's just a plan B.
Sweet. And obviously right now Pro Series is going well for you. How do you see the rest of the season panning out as far as the Pro Series? And do you I know you're trying to win both of those races. Does Pro Series points come into your thought process leading into those at all, or no?
It has been, I've chatted about it actually quite a lot recently, because I think technically if you count 2 Ironmans and a 70.3, which is where you'd think the winner would be at with the 2 world champs coming up, I think I'm about 2 minutes ahead of Jackie and about 20 minutes ahead of Maya and Els. So 2 minutes isn't loads. I'd hope for a few more minutes, but Caroline Pohl got the better of me in Tallinn. So I think, yes, and there is an element of sort of backup elements, but going into this race, the Ironman World Championships, I don't think you can race it to win it if you're thinking about conservative point management of the series. So this race for me, Nice, is just a standalone race. And when I come out of Nice, there'll be a couple of decisions to make in terms of how I play the next sort of step. Is it just Taupo I need to do, or is it Busselton as well as Taupo? So those are discussions to be had. I did think about doing Les Sables. Is it Les Sables a couple of weeks ago? Just as, again, instead of Busselton, like that sort of 6th race in the series to give me a buffer. But because I'm trying to also do the whole T100 series as well, I think I was trying to spread myself a little thin. So I'm going with quality, not quantity. But yeah, we'll see. Nice is a separate element. It's this pure one, like standalone focus.
Is there at all tactics going in, like, you know, look, if you actually, and it's shocking to me that some athletes haven't looked at those points, but like 70.3 worlds, if you're not within 6 minutes of whoever wins, and Taylor Knibb has been pretty dominant in that distance, like, doesn't matter if you go there. Is that like, do we, like, you're the only person in the last bit that's been close-ish to Taylor, right? I don't remember the gap, sorry, in Finland, but I know you were right up there. But that's also an advantage. You're like, maybe I'm the only one that gets more than 2,500 points.
Yeah. Is Taylor doing Taupo? I don't know. I think these things, we'll see how the year unfolds. And I think Nice will be a biggie. I think the time gaps here, if you look at the men, compared to Kona, for example, like the time gaps are massive. So I think this course has the opportunity to sort of cement or blow the series apart in a way. And yeah, it could ruin people's series. You know, if they don't complete their 3rd Ironman, I think the series will be to me, it's more interesting, or perhaps less interesting and more cemented after Nice.
Yeah, totally. I mean, looking at the men's race, like, Matt Hansen didn't unlap himself until like the last 500 meters of Sam's race. Wow. And he ran like a 2:36 and was top 20. You know, so like the gaps are huge.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, so coming into Nice, like, I know you've spent time training here, and it seems like this is a good place to pick up where you left off in St. George.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
It's 2nd place. Like, there's part of an athlete, right, that's like, okay, 2nd, like, now let's see if we can get 1st, and then you're just like, no, car accident. And then, like, last year, did we figure out, like, was there any explanation for last year, or sometimes the legs just aren't there?
Yeah, when I got home about 10 days later, I was forced socially to go to the doctor. Again, British.
Brits don't want to go there, yeah.
And I did have raised white blood cells and liver function markers. So the doctor was like, there's a very high possibility that you had some sort of systemic infection or something. It wasn't a clear definitive answer. And I've never experienced anything like that physically. And then there's just this massive cloud of psychological doubt there as well. And since then I've also talked to a psychiatrist, and we're working through some sort of post-traumatic stress symptoms and strategies. So I think I'm just going to leave it as an anomaly. And that's something I've been working quite hard on this year, like with the calf injury, is like the idea of just I think it's called like radical acceptance, but acceptance rather than this deep need for analysis. And so, yeah.
It's funny. That's like a really hard thing for an athlete. And I try to explain that to some of mine. It's like, no, sometimes it's just like you go to the dresser of drawers in the morning to try to pull out your legs, and you're like, oh, well, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's probably for an athlete like yourself, like, that's the hardest thing probably to come to, right?
Yeah. And I think, but sometimes going through those experiences I think it makes me stronger in terms of approaching a race like this. Like, I genuinely don't know, and neither does anyone, like what drawer you're going to open. And I think in my mind, in my sort of previous years, I've thought, well, I'm really fit. I turn up and I just perform. It's as simple and black and white as that. Whereas I think having gone through so many negative experiences now in shorter distances and longer distances, now it's like, I just don't know how it's going to start. So why worry about it? Or don't try not to worry about it as much and just see what happens.
Yeah, and I don't want to dwell on that race too much, but like being there, I was on the moto like as the group kind of left you going to Pavie.
Brutal.
And I'm sure don't remember, but like tried chatting with you for a second. Yeah, see, don't remember at all. And it was like right after, and I was like, oh man, she just lost like a minute in 3 minutes. But it was crazy because like you could tell that you weren't there, but your like stubbornness, like wanting to do it, was still there, like in this confused state of like, why can't I push through that? How weird of a space was that for you? And were you like aware that you were still like trying to push through when like your body was just like empty, like the lights went off?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually quite nice hearing you say that, because I think in my mind I only experience my side of it, and it was just, yeah, like that sort of tunnel vision of I can't really process anything except I need to cycle forwards. It was really bizarre. So but equally I'd rather not dwell on it.
Yeah, so this race seems like a pretty great, like if I was to pick a course, and if I'm being honest, like I haven't seen you descend technical stuff on a bike, but
it's all on Strava, don't worry.
I heard that actually. If you haven't looked, check out the Strava segments in the Nice area. You'll see Kat Matthews at the top of some of those. But I would pick this to be a course where you're like, okay, this is going to be a great opportunity for Kat to get her world championship. Does this feel like a course that suits you perfectly?
I think as an athlete, you never want to say this course suits me. As a triathlete, maybe as a pure cyclist, you know, they've really got these categories of this suits that person, this suits X. Sure. But I think in triathlon, there's so many variances across the three sports that just because there's a 45-minute climb, it doesn't mean that therefore the physique of a climber is going to be best on this course. Or just because, I don't know, the run is flat, the strength runner, whatever that category someone wants to call, is going to be better on this course. So actually, I find it quite exciting to just approach a new sort of situation. And because it feels like a blank slate in terms of no one's raced this before. Sure, like a couple of the girls have done Ironman France, but we know the course is completely different. It's much shorter on the bike and it's shorter on the run. So it is a different race. And I think at World Championships, it's not the same anyway. So yeah, it feels like a blank canvas, which I like because I still feel quite new in the sport. Whereas I think Kona has such an advantage for experience that this feels like a sort of true test, you know, a blind test of physical performance, but not just power output. There's skill in there as well, and a lot of tactics, a lot of courage and pacing and knowing, like there's so much more to it. I think that's what I like, and that's what suits me as the challenge rather than just out and back.
Yeah, and I think that's why I like that word you use, courage. I think that's, if I think of courageous athletes, that's you, right? To an extent, right? Courage,
Thank
stubborn.
You. Yeah, either one.
They've got to go together a little bit, right? Yeah, I think that obviously suits you well. And I think we knew this before the race last year, but then, and tell me if it sounds like you saw or watched the men's race, and the difference between this and Kona is like, we're like, okay, Kona, if you're first group, then you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this, and then you'll do that, and then maybe you'll do that. Where here you're like,
yeah. Right?
Like, how different is that coming into a world championship being like, we'll see after this race if there's like one thing that's going to do it.
Yeah. It's more exciting and it's more freeing. I think that's the big thing. Like, it's back to the sort of, you don't know what you're going to get. So I think it's more exciting that everyone's going to probably have the same tactic. That's the thing. I think, if, you know, everyone's going to try and go hard on the hill, like, or someone's going to go hard on the second hill, like or just someone's going to pace it really well and then run a great marathon. Like there's only so many tactics, and it's whoever, I don't know, can pull it off. It's not it's just, yeah, free. I like that.
And what is it about, are you looking forward to this run course, and what is it about this run course that's like unique and different and maybe gets you a little, because you got a little smile there when you talk about the run course.
I'm looking forward to this run course because I haven't run a fast marathon in about 2 years, since before my accident, and that's because I haven't been able to or needed to. So I think this run course excites me because it's twofold. It's flat, and you've just descended on the bike, so in my mind it's going to be a fast run course. Look at the men's times, they all ran pretty well. I think maybe a couple of minutes slower than their potential or PBs, but that's marginal. So I'm still looking at the low 240. Like I've got crazy run aspirations here, if I'm honest. But again, you don't know what you're going to find on race day. So you'll get off the bike and I'll be walking around a 3-hour marathon again. But I think it is exciting because I feel like the run is where you get to really show how well you've done your triathlon. You know, everyone, cool, good swim, good bike, but it's the run, it's the last 15K where it's like you've actually done the triathlon right. You know, you've paced it well, you've fueled well, you've put the effort in, and you can accelerate. That bit of the whole Ironman race is always my favourite. So yeah, I'm excited for that. But the course itself, I think the other element to it for me is that I love the race, and I don't love turning up and racing generally, but I love being in a race, like competing head to head, like that sort of, someone's just there, I need to stay away or I need to get ahead. So being able to see everyone every few K basically, that will really motivate me to get the best out of myself.
That's awesome. And you know, you did say that you
Thank you.
haven't had to or been pushed to run fast marathon, and for the record she said low 240s in there. Is that part of what excites you about this, is you're like, I'm gonna have to get the most out of myself?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't have, I say like the low 240s, I don't have like a genuine race. This is what I want to run, this is what I want to push on the bike, this is what I want to run, because it's a race. It's, who cares in a way what you run if you're running for a podium. But yeah, I can't remember the question now.
Okay.
It's too exciting. You've got me too hyped up.
Sure.
I want to run really fast. I want to run.
I do. I just don't want to hype it up. But I do. So, what is it about? And I've said this. I haven't said this in a while because I got like, you know, some feedback and some about it. But like, what? It seems like it pisses you off when people say you're a strength-based runner. Why is that so
What does that
annoying
even mean?
to me? And it's a compliment. Like I told Sebi, like, and I think you're on this, like, he's probably the best runner when it's a really, really hard bike. Like if people have been getting their quads hit by hammers for 4 hours,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Strength-based runner, right? Where like if it's like an easier ride or there's not a lot of like deep muscular endurance attached to it,
Yeah.
then, like sure, pure runner is gonna run it. And maybe are you offended that you're not called a pure runner?
Yeah, maybe. I think I associate it with aesthetics, and that's where it's like, you know, it's not something someone says, it's actually my perception. And I think when you say pure, that's like a thoroughbred, right? That's the gold standard. So if you're not pure, if you're not a pure runner, then the second tier is a strength runner, and therefore I associate it with like, well, they'll just muscle their way through it. It's not very pretty, and I don't mind that, I guess, but I don't see it as I think a lot of people perceive it as that person's more muscular, so they're stronger. And I think, going back to my sort of black and white physio brain, I'm like, we know that's not literally not true. There's lots of girls here who have less muscles than me, but probably much stronger. But they're probably way less efficient as a runner. So it's just, I think it goes back to my little, probably again, my own issue of sort of preconceived opinion on how body shape and your image, we associate that with performance. Like, oh, that person's like shredded, so they're going to race real well. It's like, well, might not work like that. Like, fact, it doesn't. And it's just, I think it's that I often get quite passionate about, that yeah, we associate body image with performance. Like, you look really fit, and it's like, no, you can't look fit. If you physically can perform fit, great, but fit is not an adjective to as you look at someone, potentially. But then again, if someone calls me fit, I'm like, yeah. So it's not, you know, I think it's very hard to get it right. As we're talking about everything, it's very easy to offend people if they've got, you know, their own preconceived opinions.
No, I mean, I appreciate that, and I think that's accurate. I mean, I used to be 250 pounds, right? And then when I did all this, and people would say I was, you know, like, I don't know, it wasn't strength-based. Nobody would ever compliment my running, for the record. But yeah, I would take those things from that point of view, and not like where I took myself, right? And certainly for me, it's never a body type thing. It is the, like, it's more that like grit and like stubbornness, or like that, like you're a battler to a certain extent, right? So if it's like really freaking hard, that's a strength based runner. And I think for this course, that mentality, like, and we saw that in the men's race, like, you're gonna get off the bike and yeah, there's that descent, but I think the legs might feel a little different than they had before.
Yeah, well, who knows? I had a really hilly bike in San Francisco, and I ran like best I've run in the last couple of years. So that gave me so much confidence that I can sort of thrash myself, and it's still, sometimes I pull out the good leg draw. So yeah, I'm not worried about that, which I think a lot of people will be.
So this race, as all races, the World Championship, it's the swim's important, right? So talk us a bit through like that first 400 meters, the scrum, the fight, and like what you're trying to do, because even though the tactics we don't know, but we know they're not going to be as important as like a group dynamic. How important is that first 400 meters, and what is happening like mentally and physically in that battle?
I think I'm still very immature, like in terms of experience with this professional open water start, open water, you know, it's whether it's beach or static, but yeah, for me, it's just work really freaking hard and try and get to a good position, whatever that looks like. I guess I probably should keep working on those sort of tactics or be able to give a better answer. But my swimming and training has improved quite a lot in the last 6 months. So it gives me a lot of confidence to try and be with that sort of, you know, first or second pack. Now we've got a bigger sort of, it's not just Lucy at the front, you know, we've got a small pack perhaps at the front, and then you've got the chase pack, and then you've got the second pack, and this year I've swum in all of the ranges. Literally, I've swum at the front, and then I've swum in the second pack back, which is for me a really bad swim. So I just don't know. I feel like that's the one thing that I got to terms with a couple of years ago, is I can't seem to control that. I can control my effort and training and consistency and being as best I can in training, and hope that translates into a race. And the race, who knows? It just depends on so many different factors, so many different people, so many different split seconds of arm strokes and feet kicks, and I don't know. It's freeing.
Well, as always, great chatting with Kat. Always a good attitude and some insights into kind of the journey that she's been on to get to this point as one of the favorites for a world championship. And I think this course suits her well, and someone who's had great results and never actually finished off the podium at World Championship. Anne Haug is up next. Here we are in Nice. How is it being in Nice for World Champs?
Yeah, it's nice. It's something different, and yeah, I really like it here. It's like amazing scenery, and I'm really looking forward to the race.
Yeah, how different is it having a World Champ race over here in Europe? A little bit, like, logistically easier?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was coming straight from Lanzarote, so it's not like a massive trip, and I really enjoy it to be so close, and it's even possible to get family over and friends, and yeah, that's really nice for us Europeans to have finally the World Championships close by.
Yeah. Not that you need any help. You've got pretty good results at World Championships. Have you ever not finished on the podium at an Ironman?
Not yet.
And what is it, like 2 or 3 thirds?
I had 3 thirds, 1 second, and 1 first.
It's pretty good. Which one would you like again?
I mean, I prefer the golden one, but I mean, I think it would be pretty tough.
But you were out here for 70.3, yeah?
Yes, exactly.
Was that just to like preview the course and kind of see the area? Did you train beforehand or?
No, I mean, I wanted to use the 70.3 age group race to like see the race course. So the idea was to come here with my manager, have a look at the Ironman course, and then race the age group race, the 70.3 under race condition, because the whole descent will be integrated in that race. So, but sadly it didn't happen because the flight of my manager didn't arrive, and the plane flew back to Germany, and I was alone in this. So that's the reason why I'm here a bit earlier, to have a good look at the race course and get familiar with that. And yeah, but it is how it is. Sometimes life had different plans, so you have to adjust to that.
Yeah, and I don't remember the time, but you ran pretty fast here in that half marathon. Yeah, what was the time?
I think it was a 1:13, but I'm not sure about if it was exactly 21K. So.
It's Ironman, of course it was 21K, exactly. Is that your fastest? What's your fastest 70.3 run split?
Yeah, it's around 1:13-ish around. Yeah, that's
pretty fast.
Yeah, it's a pretty damn fast course. I mean, it's as quick as you can make it. It's a flat, a straight 5K one way. So I mean, there's no much you can think you can make it any quicker, you know. So yeah.
Do you think it'll be just as fast, maybe not 1:13 pace, but on race day? Do you think it's a course that suits you well?
Oh, it all depends. I mean, triathlon, I always say, it's a complex sport. Every discipline has an influence on the other, and it all depends how hard you have to go on the bike and see how much is left for the marathon. So it's not a swim and a bike and then run the fastest marathon. It's get the best performance out of you, and if it means you have to go a bit hard on the bike and go 5 minutes slower on the run, but you get the best overall performance out of it, that's the way to go. So you never know how the race will unfold, but for sure I always go for a fast marathon because that's what I like showing, what I'm capable of. But I mean, like I said, it's triathlon and everything is connected, and yeah, you will see.
Yeah, what do you think the run times are capable of on this run course?
I think it will be damn fast because it's a fast course, and now the temperatures get a bit lower as well. I think the boys raced 1 or 2 weeks before, so it makes a massive difference how hot it will be. But I think on a flat course everyone can run quick. So if there would be a hill inside, it would be more like it would divide the good from the bad runners. But now on a flat course, I think everyone is capable of good times. So we will see, yeah.
Yeah. And this bike course is a little bit different than we're used to. Are you excited about the challenge of the bike course?
I'm really excited, and I think the good thing is that no one knows what to expect, because of course everyone was out on the bike course, but it's so different to race it under race conditions, to pace yourself properly, because I mean, you can really burn all your candles on the first hill and then you have nothing left. But I think you have to be really fresh, mentally fresh for the downhill, and yeah, to have a good marathon after, because it's not over after the first 25 Ks of climbing. It's a pretty long day in the office, and you need to have a good nutrition management on the way.
Yeah, I mean, how different is that? Obviously the descent, as you said, mentally you got to be focused. So putting in the nutrition for that, but you also have to manage nutrition for the race being so much longer. How difficult is that, or new challenge is that?
Yeah, I mean, I raced Ironman Lanzarote, so that's roughly the same time like Lucy needed for the Ironman. So I assume we will be slightly over 9 hours. So yeah, but you have your nutrition you take per hour, and then you just have to get a little bit more into it. Yeah, so I don't think if it makes a lot of difference, but you need to be on top even on the descent with your nutrition, because it's easy to forget because you're so concentrated. But I mean, you really have to stay concentrated and focused to do no mistakes. Otherwise, your marathon will be a damn long one.
And since you've been out here a little bit, have you had a chance to do the descent?
Yeah, I did it twice actually, yesterday and 4 days ago, and apparently in the 71.3 age group race. So yeah, I hope I did my best to prepare for that, and yeah, but race conditions are always different, so yeah.
Yeah, and what do you think? Like, it's obviously challenging, but to me it seemed like you have to be on the brakes enough that like you can be, as long as you're focused, you can be aware of what's coming, yeah?
Yeah, I think it all depends how fresh you are mentally, yeah, and yeah, we will see. So I hope everyone is safe down. That would be the most important thing, to stay safe on the bike and don't take too much risk, because I mean I don't think you can lose a race on the downhill, so better safe than sorry and keep it under control, and there's still a marathon to run, so I wouldn't say the race is over if you don't descend very well. So I mean, I think everyone is putting a little bit too much importance on that downhill part, and yeah.
Yeah, kind of get through it safe.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's half of the job done. If you get down and you're safe, and yeah.
And so yeah, this race, the dynamics are going to be much different than Kona and St. George to a certain extent, right? Like as far as group dynamics will be much different. How do you think that'll play out, and how do you think that like puts the ball in your court?
I actually have no idea how the race will unfold, if everything will be separated in the descent, or if there's actually groups going up, because I mean the field is so good at the moment, so everyone can ride a bike. So I mean, we have to see on race day, because no one ever did it before. So maybe there are big groups, maybe there's none. I have no idea how the race will unfold, and that's a cool thing that no one knows. And yeah, we have to wait until race day, but it would be nice if the field would be a bit separated for the descent. I think otherwise it can be a bit dangerous to go with a pack down the hill. So yeah, we will see.
Yeah, and you said you watched the boys race. Anything you learned or like surprised you from watching that?
I mean, not really. I think the guys who know the hill very well and know to pace themselves were in the front. But it's still an Ironman, you know. I expect the favorites in front, like in every race. So I mean, I don't think it makes it. Maybe here be a few completely new faces, girls which can handle the descents or the climbs especially well, and we never seen that before because there was no chance to show it. And I think the temperature plays a big factor as well, because some people just can't deal with the heat of Hawaii. So maybe we have girls in front who likes the wind and the cooler conditions. So who knows? I mean, I would have everyone on my list, and yeah.
That's awesome. And the swim is different. I mean, look now, it's chaos out there. And the swim's always, important to set up, possible groups and tactics and stuff. How do you see this course? And especially if you watch the men's race, it's pretty different, right? Like a lot of, it's like a big M, right?
Yeah.
So a lot more turns, and it seems like the conditions can even change on different legs. How do you think that could affect the race?
I think it favors the good swimmers for sure, because they can deal with different conditions maybe a little bit better than weaker swimmers. But my main focus is always to stay in the big pack and have the best swim possible to set up my race as best as possible, because I mean, it's important to be like in the mix from the beginning. Maybe in this race it's not as important as it would be in Hawaii, where the big packs are like, you have to be in the big pack, otherwise your race is pretty much over. I think here you can like correct errors in the swim a bit. But of course my main focus is to be with the best girls in the big pack and have the best swim possible. But it will be challenging, and I hope in the morning the water will be a bit more calm, but yeah, we will see.
And let's talk a bit about that first 400 meters, and like when you're in it, how difficult it can be. And people are like, oh, how come you missed that group? And you're like, you don't have any idea what's happening. Some of the times it's like really hard to be aware because your eyes are this far above the water, right? Like, tell us a bit about what happens in that first 400 meters and how you maybe like try to adapt to be in the spot that you want to be.
Yeah, I mean, the first 300 meters is always a bit of a mess, because from the outside everything looks so easy and you think, why does this swimmer go this way and this one is going completely the opposite? But in the water you don't see anything. It's a bit out of your control, and like I said, you always need a bit of luck to get the right feeds. And at the World Champs I was always lucky, but you can be unlucky as well. But I think the problem is, or my strategy is to focus the first 200 meter on myself, to get a good start, to be able to swim freely and not get too much into fights with others. And then after 200 meter you see who's around you and catch good feeds. And it's pretty much, yeah, you can't control it. You just give your best and hope for the best, and yeah, everything else is not in your hands.
Okay, so let's talk about going from the bike to the run and like what it feels like to find your feet. And I've talked to you after races where I thought you had amazing runs and you said you felt like crap the whole time, and days where you felt good. Like, how do you tell us how that like awareness of how you're feeling comes to you, and if that's in the first K or if it's further down, or how that feels transitioning into like running a marathon as fast as you can?
Yeah, I think I prepare myself mentally for the fact that when you come off the bike, it just feels awful. And you think, how can I ever run a marathon? But you have to be mentally prepared for that. And I said to myself, okay, I give myself 5K to find in my rhythm. No matter how ugly it feels, it will come. And I have big faith in my body that it will feel better after 5Ks. And I allow myself to even like shuffling around the first 5K just to get into my rhythm. And I think you just have to believe and faith, because it felt ugly for everyone in the first K, and then you hopefully get into your rhythm, and that's what normally happens in good days. And yeah, I hope for the best here as well.
Yeah, so and when you have the feeling where it's not feeling good, and maybe are you looking at your watch to see if the paces feel better? How do you push through that? Like, I know I've talked to you where you said it felt like crap the whole time. How do you find the ability to continue to push through?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm here because it's the World Championship, and you wanna, even if you feel shit, you give your very best on the day. And normally, even if it doesn't matter how you feel, because the outcome is what matters on a World Championship. And I mean, I said the feeling is a feeling, but I'm here to give it my very best, even if I feel horrible. So yeah, that's the way it is, because you're committed to that race, to that goal. You worked so hard for that, and I want to see the finish line no matter what it costs. And yeah, there's a whole team behind me who worked so hard for this one day and a year, and it's my duty to make it as fast as possible, and that's what's kept me going. So to see the finish line, and when I cross the finish line, I want to have the feeling that I couldn't have squeezed any seconds more out of my body. That's what you're aiming for, and that's my goal the whole race through.
And why is the World Championship so important?
Yeah, because in Ironman racing, it's pretty much the only race a year you race the very best in top shape. So in ITU racing, you meet each other every couple of weeks and race each other, or have a series or whatever. But in Ironman, that's it, you know. You have to do it on this day or not. Yeah.
And what is it about you? Like, I kind of like glazed over the fact that you really have only finished on the podium, and the only other woman that I remember having that consistency is Lucy.
Yeah.
Like, how do you manage to always show up fit enough and like mentally prepared enough to always finish on the podium? That's like extraordinary.
I don't know. I have a good coach, I have a good team around me, and I think the most important thing is not to take nothing for granted. I mean, every race starts from zero, and you have to work bloody hard to be in good shape, and you need a bit of luck in a race as well, that it unfolds to your favors. And I don't know how I did it to finish always on the podium, and yeah, but I always go in the race, and I know I have to fight damn hard to get to that, and every year it's getting harder and harder. And yeah, I think don't expect that you're always on the podium. No, you have to fight for it every time, and it's like something super special to be on the podium on a World Championship, and that's my big goal the whole year. And yeah, that's what I'm here for, to fight for it.
And to get on that podium, you've seen being at the top, but you've also seen being behind. And a lot of those women that have been in front of you are here racing this weekend. Tell us about how, maybe who those people are, how it is racing against that talented of an athlete, and how they bring the best out of you.
Yeah, I mean, It's always great to face the best athletes in the world, because just if the best athletes are here, you know how good you are. You need to compare yourself and bring yourself in the mix, and then you know if all the training was worth it. And yeah, but I mean, in an Ironman race, you always have to focus on yourself, especially in a race like that. You can't really race the others. You need to make sure to get the best out of yourself, and in the end, you see how good you are. And yeah, it's always interesting to see where everyone is up, because you hardly meet each other during the season, during the year, and yeah, you need a very, very good day to be on top of this podium this year.
Yeah, and I've seen some battles on the run, right, with you chasing, and with Lucy and with Laura Phillip last year. Like, you're always back and forth. This course is much more in your face. You will see most of them 7 times on the out and backs. Tell us a bit about the dynamics of maybe the mental games or the focus, or what you're focusing on, or if you're looking at signs that they're weakening or strengthening. Like, tell us about that.
Yeah, it will be really interesting, because I think you don't get a lot of information on the bike course, and suddenly you're on the run and see everyone and see how far you're behind or front or wherever you are. So yeah, I think it's a good thing that you have the field pretty much under control, or see where you are on the run. But on the other side, you can see always 5K straight ahead. And if it's like that, you feel so slow. It's like in Hawaii, if you can see so far in the distance, you feel super slow because nothing is happening. Yeah, so yeah, we will see. I mean, I think it's good to see, because I'm normally the chaser, and it's always good to see you have a goal you can chase. Yeah.
Awesome. One of the athletes that you've battled with for World Championships isn't going to be racing, Daniela Ryf. Tell us a bit about maybe hearing that news that she wasn't racing, and kind of the effect that she's had on the sport and your career possibly.
I mean, Daniela Ryf is an absolute outstanding career athlete. Her career is like, yeah, maybe she's one of the greatest we've ever seen in the sport. And I'm a bit sad that her career ends like that, because an athlete of her caliber, you wish she could have the ending of the career she was like hoping for. And yeah, but she's around, and I think that's really nice that she's here and still supports. And yeah, of course, everyone wants to have her in the race, because it brings so much more value to a World Championship to have Daniela in the race, apparently. But yeah, I mean, she was really struggling with her injuries, which is really unfortunate, and I wish her all the best.
And I almost forget to ask you this question, because it always surprises me when I talk after the race and you're like, oh yeah, I felt like crap the whole run, or it was really hard, because you don't show it. It seems like you're always like, you look beautiful. It's like, it's fantastic. But I imagine that you go through some really dark spots just like everyone else. Like, how do you get through them, and how do you get through them looking so good, and like you're not, but like, how do you get through that dark space? What brings you out of it?
Yeah, it's always, I always surprise myself how much you can push your body, even you think oh God, I can't do a single step anymore. But maybe because I knew I did it so often when I felt so awful, and in the end I was always running a sub-3 marathon, so I always remind myself, like, even if I think I'm just shuffling around or like do tip-top steps like in Utah, where I was completely out of energy because I have really massive medical problems, then yeah, I have that in my mind and see, okay, I survived that, it's possible, it's just a mental thing, you just have to push through. And if you think you can't do it, then you have to think from aid station to aid station, and think, oh, just to the next aid station, and make it a bit shorter and more easy for your brain to cope with that. And don't think about the whole marathon ahead. So you have to make it, break it up in like little pieces to make it a little bit more bearable.
Awesome. The theme of this year's race is Nouveau Souffle, which means new life. What does that mean to you coming into first World Championship in Nice? It's women's only.
I think it's absolutely fantastic, because I've never been that athlete who said just Hawaii is the place to be. For me, a World Championship is a World Championship, no matter where it is. It's a certain race where the best athletes in the world come together and fight for the World Championship title. And I think it's because Hawaii is so specific and suits maybe just a few athletes really well. So I think, it's really good to have to show it on every single course, under every condition, that you're one of the world's best, because that's what World Championship are made for. And I think we are pretty much the only sport I can remember that World Championships are always in one place. So I think it's good that it's moving a bit.
Love Annie's attitude. She always brings a smile to everybody's face on these pre-race interviews. Hopefully you guys could gather that. But here for business and trying to get on that podium again. And last but not least, leading the Ironman Pro Series, Jackie Herring. It's been a while since she's done Ironman. She decided to come back this year, and it's been, I'd say, pretty successful. Let's see what Jackie has to say coming into World Champs. Okay, so World Champs, but the backdrop is a little bit different. What's it like being the American in Paris? But not Paris.
We're not in
France.
Paris.
We're in Nice. Yeah.
We're in Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. I haven't been to World Champs in 10 years for Ironman, so I don't know. I guess it feels different. I've been at 70.3 Worlds, and it's kind of the same. Seems like the hype is a little bit more, though, at the full Ironman. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm settling in and getting my feet wet and getting used to everything.
Sweet. Yeah. Is it the hype's different, but like it's always a little like personally different, like prepping for an Ironman than the 70.3 Worlds, right? Like 70.3, it's like no stress, right?
I find the opposite. 70.3 is quite stressful because it's the effort is so hard and so unnatural for me that I have a lot of stress leading into 70.3 Worlds because I know I'm going to have to go completely uncomfortable for a period of time. And for Ironman, it's a longer day, but you're never going in that like death hard zone. You're just doing the day. So yeah, less overall stress.
Wow. Okay. So I guess the only reason I'm confused, because I see you as that athlete that like that would be challenging going hard, like because you're consistent over like longer, harder courses. Why the heck did you take like 9 years off of Ironman? I think I know the answer, but like why'd you take so much time off of Ironman racing?
Yeah, as I've discovered this year, and most people know, Ironman training takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and just general planning and work and all that. And as everybody knows by now, I have 2 kids, and my kids are 6 and 8 now, and it was important for me and necessary in those early years for me to just be there and be available. And frankly, I just couldn't even wrap my head around training for an Ironman. There wasn't an ounce of my being that even wanted to do Ironman up until actually this year. This is the first time that I've had the urge to even attempt an Ironman. So I think, yeah, I just need that time for them to get a little older, and maybe for my own self to mature as an athlete and get more robust in handling the training, and yeah, maybe get better to where I felt like if I went back to Ironman, I'd be able to do a good job.
Wow. Yeah, I guess I didn't realize they were that young. I mean, that makes sense for your break, but have you found it to be easier than it was before? As far as like the actual Ironman effort, like the actual race, since you've had kind of that top end for so long?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, when I did a whole ton of Ironmans before having kids, and I was not training the way that I am now. I was not doing anything in a real professional type of way.
And you did like a ton of Ironmans,
I did,
right?
I think like 24 Ironmans.
Were you doing like 5 a year or something?
I was doing a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was racing as a pro, but I was operating quite a bit like an age grouper. Like
Yeah.
I had the Ironman bug real bad from the start, and I just wanted, give me all the Ironmans.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going for performance as much as I was just going for having all these cool experiences.
Yeah.
And so that was its own phase. And I think now re-entering, it's a completely different phase where I figured out, I learned a lot about how to train and how to train well and what my body can do and not do. And now I can use that to try to actually perform well.
Yeah, and have you been surprised by how well you've performed moving to the Ironman distance?
I guess, I don't know, not really.
Yeah.
I always knew and had a feeling, I mean, I had a sense that I'm much more of an endurance machine than I am anything fast is pretty impossible for me. So endurance has always been there, but I think the way I've gone in the 70.3s the last few years, it gave me confidence that I might be able to do well if I moved up in distance. Just taking what I had done there and making it longer honestly sounded easier to me.
Right.
So yeah, I am a little surprised just that my body's holding up and I'm still healthy and still motivated. So I guess on that front, I feel a little kind of pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, that's rad. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm surprised, but like fastest American Ironman ever, right? Like
That is surprising.
That was a lot
What are
for your
people
first
doing?
one back.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty. I mean, you
It's
got
surprising.
Yeah.
That is surprising.
Okay, good. You give me that.
I was shocked.
Right, that's awesome. Would you run there like a 252 or something?
252, which
It's crazy.
I knew I had a feeling that I might run around then. That makes sense to
Yeah.
my brain because that's the right pace.
And it's funny, like watching you race halves.
Yeah.
Like when I'm watching you, like literally, like at St. George, I was like, oh yeah, she could do this 10% slower for twice as long. But like actually seeing you
But
do
to
it, you're
actually
like, shit.
do it and for the body to allow you to do that is a whole nother thing. So I was really glad and for both Ironmans, like Lake Placid, it was a little bit more of a battle for me, but even still my body managed it pretty well. So yeah, I'm happy about that.
That's awesome. So last year in Lati after the race, I was like, and I was talking to Rennie about this like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, I can't remember who I was with. We were talking to you, and you were like bummed after the race, and you're like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna, maybe this is it or something.
Yeah.
And Rennie's like, that was me. That, you know, like it was you and Rennie that were talking. But you were at this like low point, which we all do after a race.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think Rennie and I both were like, no, you've like, not yet, right? Was that moment, tell us maybe about that moment, and did that bleed into why you decided to go back to Ironman and maybe focus on the Pro Series?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, I was dabbling with, you know, doing some of the shorter races, trying to mix in some of the 100K distance, which is definitely not for me. And then mixing that with 70.3s. And I tried to go from Singapore to Finland, got super sick and raced terribly. And also had pretty much all my contracts were ending at the end of that year. And I had a year and a half of horrendous racing. So I was really thinking like, are these all the signs that I should be done?
Right.
And, you know, I kind of just mulled that over for a little bit. And I think I just started dropping some emails and talking to some people and realized, you know, yeah, maybe Ironman is the way to go. If this is like, if I'm getting beat down at the short stuff, maybe I need to just like go to what I think works for me. And that's like exactly when, that same day, I think I kind of came to that thought, the Pro Series was announced. And so I was like, aha, this is it. So it really, and then I got excited again. So, and then I was like, okay, I got to get some contracts. I got to get my sponsors, get everybody going on this plan. So it really worked out nice. And I started the year feeling, number one, healthy again. My body kind of got normal. And then secondly, I had a nice support system of sponsors and partners that I felt were like kind of going on this mission with me. So really good.
Yeah, that's right. And it's crazy how that works, right? Like, and I assume with your personality too, it's like, it's daunting if you're like kind of beat down to be like, oh yeah, I'll just email sponsors and act like I'm super excited about racing next year. Like that's, like for that to come together that way, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. And Pro Series, like, did you have a specific kind of like tactic? Like I think some people were like, I'll just race a bunch of races and get as many points as possible, where it seemed like you had maybe more of a direct like plan or tactic going around the season. Is that right? Or
Yeah, well, interestingly, I broke my toe in January,
Okay.
just kicking a random thing in my house. And
That's
so
how
I
it
wasn't
always
able to
happens.
run for like 6 weeks. It was actually a really bad break.
yeah.
And because of that, I wasn't able to start racing till May. So that kind of took out Ironman Texas. And in thinking about the Pro Series, I knew I didn't want to over race this year, because I thought, okay, man, if I'm going to try to do 3 Ironmans, like, it's either going to work or it's not work, and I can't force this. So yeah, I planned exactly the races. I wasn't planning to race any extra races. There is no backups. Those were just the races I was going to do, and if it works, it works. And I don't like traveling too much. I don't like to be away from my family. So luckily it's working, and that's that.
Yeah, no, that's sweet, because I've been having a lot of conversations about, the Pro Series and kind of tactics behind it. And to me, and it takes a confident athlete to make that choice that you did, but it's like, you just have to come up with 5, maybe 6 races that like suit you well, and then don't chase your tail. Where I feel like some athletes were like, oh, I'm up at the top if I replace this score. And then you're like, dude, now like World Champ season comes and you
got 8 races to go or something.
Yeah, and you're like already cracked, right? So you feel like your progression, like obviously Placid wasn't that long ago, but like you feel pretty fresh going into the last, because are you going to race 70.3 Worlds?
Yeah, that's it. So I already have, so I didn't want to put a lot of weight on 70.3 Worlds because, well, frankly, Taylor's going to be there, and just based on calculations, the gaps could be big where it wouldn't even matter that there's extra points there. So I wanted to make sure I had 2 70.3s in the start, just to get good scores, just to have those done.
Yeah.
So if 70.3 goes great, fine. It could replace one, but if not, I feel confident that my 70.3 scores are good enough.
That's sweet. I think people are going to learn so much from the first season, or people that don't have like analytical forethought, or maybe it's like I have ADHD, right? So I'm like thinking of all the different scenarios, and it's like nobody thinks. And to your point, like if Taylor wins by 6 minutes, it's the same as a normal race.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, don't put all your eggs in that basket if you have opportunity to like race before that, right?
Yeah, pretty much I saw what happened at Oceanside, and that's what I wasn't for sure going to do Chattanooga until I saw what happened at Oceanside, and then I said, I have to do Chattanooga.
Smart.
Because I know I can score good at these 2. And that was that.
That's smart. And then so looking into that for this weekend, like what is it still like, I'm just doing Jackie's race and that's it? Or are there like calculations on other people's
No,
stuff?
I mean, an Ironman, you have to do your own race. You can't base it off, or at least maybe some people can, but I cannot base it off other people. I have to do my thing in the swim and do my thing on the bike, and then also really do my thing on the run. There's only so fast, you can't like magically race somebody else's race. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, and you can't get your feelings hurt by people going ahead of you at certain points, because that just might be a point that they're strong in, and then there's going to be another time where you get to showcase your own strengths. So yeah, for me, obviously I know the other people that are trying to do the series and score the points, and there will be a time potentially on the run where I'll think about that, but maybe not. Overall, it's just, I'm trying to put together my best, most solid, full day that I can, regardless of whatever anyone else does.
Right. Looking at, whenever a commentator watch you race 70.3, it's always like the tougher the course, the longer it's going to take, the better it is for Jackie. Or like, that's what my assumption is, or my observation. And I hadn't ever probably commentated you racing an Ironman, because it'd been 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Is that the same for the Ironman distance, or is this course like daunting in any way because it's so hard?
It will be interesting. I think Hamburg eased me in well because it was such a fast, shorter,
Yeah.
you know, it was done quicker. Like the bike ride was only whatever it was, 4 hours 20 or something. So it went by really quick, and you don't have to eat as much, and you know, like it was a great transition from 70.3. And the run there was really similar to the run here. The run there, we had 4 out and backs where you have people the whole way. You know, it's great to keep yourself and your mind occupied while you're running. You don't get bored. They're not sending you out, you know, it's not like Kona where you're on this mission in the middle of nowhere and you got so much time to think about it. You're in it with the people, and I think I really like that. So I think this course here, I've ridden the whole bike course since I've been here, and I love it. I think it's beautiful. I think it will be challenging and entertaining, and I think the run course is exactly how I like it. Yeah. Hang on, I have a bug, I think, or something.
Oh.
Oh no, this thing is just bothering me.
She had
maybe.
a bug going around.
Nope,
Yeah.
it's there. Just something.
There was a fly being very aggressive.
Now my collar's popped.
You can pop your collar if that's a steez that you got. It's fine. It's fine. We can get camera, pop the collar. What is it about a world championship that like makes things just different?
I mean, I think just that you have to do stuff like this. You have to do interviews, and for all of us besides Lucy, we don't normally do this stuff. We just kind of roll up and do an Ironman. That's pretty much all that feels different to me. You just have to do a few extra media engagements. And I got a new kit. I mean, that's exciting. A new outfit.
Is that an advantage because you're like, oh, look at that chick seems stressed out. Whatever. It's just
Yeah,
Ironman.
usually I wouldn't be included in this type of stuff, so I actually count that as an advantage. Normally, I'm like, oh, they're wasting so much energy having to talk to and do all these photo shoots and interviews. I usually do nothing, so I get to rest up, but yeah, it's kind of fun to get to do this too.
I actually got paid off by some of your competitors. This is a 2-hour long interview. Yeah, and that shade is going
know
away
I
here
hate
in a
talking.
second. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shade's going away.
I'm gonna tell
Here's
Hannah
good.
about your new kit, and I'll send it to Sean.
Oh, I haven't
Oh.
seen it yet in person. They shipped it to my house after I was gone.
You want to speak to the camera and talk about how annoying that is.
Tell me how I feel about the shipping issues.
I'm gonna capture a kitty moment.
That's amazing.
My new kit, I could tell you.
Yeah, tell me what.
My new kit's beautiful. So it's, I think, Zoot's newest collection. They used the basis of that to design their pro kits for World Champs. So it's got like multicolor kind of flowy look. And then to kind of keep my theme with the pink, it's got pink on top with this my tattoo, which is the flowers of each of my kids' birth month. My kids and me and my husband on the sleeve, like an arm sleeve tattoo. And yeah,
I like
it's
it.
beautiful.
I like it. I wouldn't have necessarily thought you was like a tattoo themed kit person, but now I get
Quite
it.
a lot of tattoos.
Do you?
Just not visible.
Okay, now's the other portion of
There's
our
the other
show. Show us your tattoos, Jackie.
No.
We could do like a cool like cartoonish intro. Woo!
Yeah, no. Too much stuff on my wrist.
That's cool. Awesome. Let's see. What do you want to talk about? Oh, Daniela is
Oh yeah.
obviously not racing. Tell us a bit about how different that is and maybe, kind of your thoughts. Maybe you didn't race her on the world stage that much, but obviously she kind of is leaving a legacy in the sport, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all mixed about her having her body kind of forcing her to retire, because I think, there's a part of me that wanted her to have this really cool fairy tale ending. I think this course would have suited her because she's so tough. I think she would have done really well. So do we all need another beatdown by Daniela? Not really, but I think this would have suited her. She would have done great. So it's sad not to have her here. And she's just been such a leading source of like driving the women's field forward, seeing what's possible, that I think she's made the sport progress how it has.
It's awesome. And I mean, I've asked most people that question, and they're like, no, there's none of me that is like pumped that she's not here. Like, come on. There's a little bit of you that is stoked that you don't have to race Danielle.
Well, yeah. Do we really need? Yeah.
You don't need to act like it's like all like, you know, but yeah, sweet. There's one more spot I get to get because. But you're right. She would have been a monster on this course.
She would have been so good. Yeah.
Okay, so so this run course, lots of out and backs. And this is another one athletes don't necessarily give me like the honest answer. But like there is a mind game and like a poker match that happens on those out and backs, right? Like there's 7 out and backs. You start maybe when you're fresher on the run, and then at the end it's when everybody's cracking. Like what games or like part of yourself are you trying to hide in those sections, or part that you're trying to show? Like everybody's like, oh no, but it's like, no, you're not like looking at your watch while the other person's looking, right? And you're not like, you're gonna straighten up a little bit, right? Like, do you adjust at all in those out and backs?
I don't have a ton of experience with the out and backs with a race of this many people of this caliber, so I'm not really sure probably what I'll do. But I think, kind of like I said before, I can only run as fast as I can run, and most likely the pace that I'm going to run, I'm going to be passing people. So I don't think I'm going to have to try to look any certain way. I think I'm just going to run my run and pass as many people as I can, probably. I kind of look like crap after halfway, but I don't think that matters because apparently I still keep running decent.
Dude, looking like crap is a secret. It's seriously, it's like a.
I don't care what I look like. Do not care.
It's kind of a secret weapon. Like that's the only weapon I had. It was like, oh, you look like crap.
Yeah.
If I'm dropping you or catching you, you must feel like actual crap.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's
and
something
I always
there.
say something kind of, something kind of sneaky when I go by them, like, oh, great race, like pretty much peace out, see you never.
See, I knew that. And that's the stuff they won't tell me, right? You're like, oh, thanks for coming out. Good performance.
Yeah. No, you say great bike ride. That's what the runners say.
Yeah. See, this is real. This is good.
Peace out. That was good.
Yeah, peace out. Thanks for coming. You need any water? You need anything? Can I help you? Anything I can get
I
you?
have offered ice to someone while actually shoulder to shoulder with someone before. You want me to get you some ice? And then they look at you like you're completely crazy. Don't do that.
Yeah, and you got to learn how you do it. Like early Ironman Wisconsin, actually, I was in like top 5, and some guy was walking. I was like, "Hey man, come on, you can do it!" And then he ended up beating me.
Oh.
Like never again.
Yeah, don't cheer him on for real. I mean, I do that sometimes. I did that to Sarah Truitt a couple of years ago at 70.3 Chattanooga. I was like, "Oh, we got this. Let's go. You can do this. Stay with me." And then 2 miles later, she left me.
From then on, just passive aggressive compliments.
Right. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's great. So do you have any other family out here? Are the kids old enough where you bring them out or no?
Yep, they'll come on Wednesday. Yep, it's their first European trip, so they're pretty excited.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you excited for them to come, or is there like a little you like the calm by yourself, or sounds like you like your kids?
I love my kids. Yeah, it's painful for me to be away from them, actually. That's why I don't like to travel too much. I don't like to be gone. I don't do training camps. I don't leave. I don't like to. So they're coming.
Sweet. Okay, so this year the theme for the race is Nouveau Souffle, or something that sounds something like that. I'm pronouncing
New
it.
self.
Yes.
Is that what that means?
New life.
New life.
I thought it was new self, and I got ridiculed pretty hard
Okay.
for it. Your new life could be a new self. That's up to you.
Okay.
Going into the World Champs in Nice, women's only, what does new life mean to you?
Yes, new life, sure. This is a new year. I'm tackling Ironman. Exactly. It is a good theme first year of women, and for me personally, first year back to Ironman, first year at the Pro Series. It's a lot of years, a lot of firsts here in Nice for us.
Well, there you go. That's it from Nice and the VinFast Ironman World Championships women's only race. It's a great vibe coming in. Awesome to talk to these athletes and kind of get in their headspace a bit for what's coming on race day. And be sure to tune in. We've got a lot more content coming out of Nice before race start and obviously race day on Sunday. Thanks so much for tuning in on the Ironman Insider Podcast presented by Martin. I'm Matt Lieto. We'll see you out there on race day.